Hi, thanks for checking out our loan processor training course. The role of a loan processor in a mortgage broking office is usually a step up from the loan admin person. Usually, by the time a file gets to the loan processor, the credit report is done, the valuation has been ordered, the compliance documents have been signed, and the preliminary supporting documents have been collected from the customer. The loan processor, however, still needs to be across these four topics because they need to know where the potential issues may be, in case admin misses them, in case admin is not there, in case the valuation comes back after they receive the file. So the first four modules that we go through in the loan processor training course are compliance, so that they know the ins and outs of the compliance documents. We cover valuations, so they know what kinds of valuations to order if they are responsible for that process, but mostly what kinds of valuations we can use in what situations and what to look for in valuations so that we know if we need to ask for extra documents from the customer before we get to the final stages of the application ready to submit. We look at credit reports because a second set of eyes is never a bad thing. Do we need to ask the customer for accountant's letters to mitigate directorships? Those kinds of things would fall under loan processing job role, and those are the kinds of things that we cover, as well as all the other sections of the credit report. Next, we cover supporting documents, and this module is not about the mortgage statement, the credit card statement, the personal loan statement. This is about the other supporting documents that we might need to collect in the loan application process that sometimes we may see all the time, sometimes we may not. So things like rental statements, trust deeds, strata levy notices, and rates notices. What do we need them for? What are we looking for on them? What do we do if they don't come in looking like we want them to look? What kinds of things do we need to request that might be extra to mitigate the potential issues that may be on these documents? And where do we find the information on these documents that we need to data load into the systems and take into account for servicing and credit history? The next one that we look at is personal liabilities, and this is about our mortgage statement, our credit card statement, our personal loan statement, our buy now, pay later accounts. How do we factor them into servicing? What are we looking for on statements? How do we know if the customer has missed a payment, has made a late payment, is in trouble with their mortgage? What are we looking for? Where do we find it? And what kinds of things are we looking for in order to overcome those problems? Can we overcome those problems? Do we need more documents? Do we need more evidence of payment? All of that kind of stuff we cover under personal liabilities. The next one that we cover is MIRs, missing information requests. And this is probably my favorite module out of all of our 12 modules because missing information requests are a real pain in broker life. The last thing that you want to do is submit your application and have it come back from the bank asking a question that you knew was going to be a problem, but you didn't explain it properly in your broker notes, or you didn't provide the right supporting documents. So in the MIR module, we look at, for your loan processors, what kinds of things are potentially going to be an MIR? What are the most common ones? What are the kinds of things that we can ask for in order to avoid an MIR? How do we structure our broker notes so that we get the important stuff across to credit and the important mitigants across to credit so that we don't get those phone calls, so that we don't get those missing information requests, so that our file doesn't go to the bottom of the pile to be looked at again in 3 days when we finally provide them the right information? How do we get a deal submitted without it coming back as an MIR? And the last module that we look at is living expenses, because usually this falls in a loan processor's role. So how do we work out customers' living expenses? How do we compare those against what a customer has told us their living expenses are? What is HEM? What kinds of things sit outside of living expenses, outside of HEM, and have to be factored in separately? And how do we mitigate living expenses and potentially minimize living expenses if there are things that are one-off expenses? So if the customer has gone on holidays 1 month and their living expenses, according to their transaction statements, are double what they are normally, how do we mitigate that to the bank so that the bank is not including living expenses higher than what we need them to? All of those things are covered in these 7 modules, and all of those things are going to help your loan processor not only do their job better, but reduce the amount of time that you need to be involved in a loan application. Ideally, what we want is for the loan application to get to you, the broker, simply for sign off with a tick that says, yes, it is ready to go to the bank and it is perfect and it is not going to get a missing information request. So that's the mission that we're on, and these 7 modules will help your loan processor get to that point. So enroll them today and let's get them started.